Hello Internet, it's Daniel with Driving and Dragons, and today I'm going to answer a question that a lot of us, I don't think, put too much thought into these days. And that is, what exactly is a game master? Stay tuned. Okay, so I was sitting around in a Dungeons and Dragons beginners forum earlier today, and a member of the forum stepped up and they asked, they said, hey, I've never been a dungeon master before, what exactly does this entail? What exactly is it? What is the best way you can describe a dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons in this case? And I put in an answer. It's my standard answer for what is the DM or what is the GM. But it got me thinking, is a lot of times we, especially those of us who care enough about tabletop role-playing games to kind of jump on and be part of the forums and get involved in like the various different videos and whatnot, you see a whole lot of advice, and you even see a lot of advice for beginner game masters, people who just started doing it. But a lot of it, sometimes it's kind of rare that you even see somebody put in a video about what is a game master. You'll actually see a lot that are like, what are tabletop role-playing games? What are RPGs? How to get into RPGs. But very rarely do you see somebody who goes, what is a game master? What is a player? What are these individual roles, these very basics that you pick up? And I think that even in kind of a pop culture sense, we just kind of expect people to understand what the dungeon master is in a D&D game, just from pop culture for that instance, or by example. So it got me thinking, why not? Let's make a video. What is the game master? And the simple answer is the game master is referee. All right, he's referee. He is not. He's a little bit more than a referee in terms of he actually has carte blanche in most cases to more or less rewrite the rules however he wants to. I've done a whole series on Rule Zero, and Rule Zero, for those who don't know, is in just about every tabletop role-playing game on the planet. The rule book more or less starts out with the game master, the referee, the dungeon master, whatever they call him in that particular system. The number 0 rule, before even rule number 1, is that his discretion is the end. You can change anything to make to fit your table and to fit your game and to make it more fun for your players or to make it more streamlined. So the first and the final rule, the alpha and the omega, rule 0 is that what the game master says goes. So he's a little bit more than a referee, because a referee, in football, for instance, can't just make up a rule. Though most of us who are football fans may disagree that referees don't just make up what constitutes pass interference. Technically, they can't just rewrite the rules. A game master in a tabletop role-playing game literally can rewrite the rules. With that being said, the simple answer is they're a referee. But really what the game master is, the description I give, is they are the narrator of the story you are all collectively writing. They are both the narrator and they are every character that is not the main character. So, and the main characters, of course, would be all of your player characters. And that's really a good way to think about it. Think about yourself as the narrator in whatever story is being told. Even if it's just kind of a hack and slash tabletop video game type experience, dungeon dive or whatever, you're still telling a story, even if that story is just these people went to this place and killed these monsters and took this treasure. You're still telling some kind of a story, and the story acts upon the NPCs the same way that the player characters act upon the story. And you have to make those calls as the game master. You are the one who ensures that flow. And you are the one who arbitrates how the rules rules affect that world and how they influence it. But probably the worst description I hear of a game master is when people are, game master is basically God. It's the God of gods, the over deity. Not really. And yes, the DM does determine what all the gods in the world do, and the DM or the game master does, in a lot of cases, craft the story and determines and narrates the results of what happens. But it's not the game master as a god that can just arbitrarily make decisions, not if they want to be a good one. You are the narrator. The dice and the players tell you what the player tells you what they want to do. The dice tell you how to narrate how it happens. So a player says they want to climb a tree. You say roll an athletics check, climb check, whatever the case may be. If it's a difficult enough climb, they roll the die, you get a result, and that result tells you how to narrate the scene. Whether that scene is you jump up and you grab the bottom branch and the bottom branch breaks and you fall flat on your butt, or you struggle to climb the tree and it takes you several minutes and you're actually kind of scuffed up a little bit, so you're going to take 1d4 of damage from scrapes and cuts and bruises, or you scamper right up the tree. It doesn't take hardly any time at all. You may as well have just been walking because you got such a good roll. That's, at the end of the day, what is the game master. The game master is equal parts referee and narrator. He may be the one who writes the story. You write everything that's between the quotation marks, so to speak. Whereas your players dictate what happens in quotes with what they say. You dictate what happens between, all the rest of the paragraph. You dictate the rest of the story, how the other people act. And you're a referee, and if there is a dispute about how a rule, you determine how a rule should be used. Do you even need a roll to climb that tree? If this is an older thing, and predominantly Dungeons and Dragons, but a thing called taking 10 or taking 20. Are you going to allow me to take 20 to climb this tree, or take 10 to climb this tree? Where basically, as long as I take enough time and caution and I'm not rushed or under duress, I can say, well, my character's just going to take however much time is necessary for me to get a 10 on the roll to climb this tree. And those are the decisions you make as the game master. The other thing that a game master is, and this is on the outside, so they're equal parts narrator and referee in game. They are, in a lot of cases, the writer out of the game. Because if you're doing anything homebrewed, unless you're running a pre-made campaign, in which case you really are mainly referee. If you're writing on your own, you do have to do some writing. You have to craft that story to a certain extent. You at least have to craft the framework. Really what you're doing is you're creating a set of circumstances, and the story is created by the actions and decisions of your player. So don't think of it as you writing a story. You don't want to think, oh, I'm writing a novel and this is how it's going to go. You're going to create a set of circumstances, a set of conditions that are in the world. You're going to put those out there, and then your players are going to react to them, and that's what's going to craft your story. But the other thing you are outside the game is you're the manager of the party, so to speak. You're the one who is responsible for maintaining the schedule. You're the one who, unfortunately, is in a lot of ways responsible for arbitrating disputes between the players and kind of setting the framework and the guidelines. The game master is the one who runs the session zero and says, and hammers out, here's what we've all agreed to. We're not going to have graphic sexual encounters. So you're the one responsible for controlling that and making sure that things don't go in that direction. We're not going to have large amounts of swearing and things at the table. We're the ones who's going, the game master is the one who's in charge of how to handle that. two players have a dispute over how something happens in game, and you as the game master are the one who is in a lot of ways responsible for mediating between what should be a pair of friends, especially these days when you got a lot of these just kind of random online groups that have come up, people picked together off of Facebook, people who've never met before being the ones who are all at the table. It's even more so that you have to be the one to mediate between these players, because they may not be friends. It's not like it was back in when I started playing, and we were all friends outside of the game anyway. Makes it a lot easier to mediate things, but now that you're dealing with a lot of people who may have not even met before and have varying personality types, you're the one who mediates that. You're also the one who is responsible, at least the majority responsible, for the climate at the table. The game master is the one who ultimately is responsible for telling player, for going to a player and saying, hey, can you please focus on the game? Don't pull your phone out at the table. Or having a rule where it's like, here's the basket where everybody's phone goes, unless there's, somebody's got a pregnant wife or is pregnant or, has a sick grandparent or something like that, something major that they have to have their phone on, they're on call, whatever the case may be. You're the one who's responsible for collecting everybody's phone. You're the one who's responsible for making sure that those side conversations where this guy over here is telling a story to one of the other players while you're trying to work a scene with a third player, keeping them on task. And a game master is kind of the record keeper. The game master keeps records of what has happened. Now, there is some responsibility for these latter things that falls on the players. A player is responsible for all the the session 0 stuff that's agreed to. If we said there's not going to be any graphic sexual content and you have a player who's constantly pushing for that, they're responsible for not going in that direction. All right, if you say we're all going to be good, they're responsible for that. You're just responsible for kind of reminding and controlling the situation and arbitrating disputes. But the players do have some responsibility there too. They also have some measure of responsibility for regulating themselves. Hey guys, we're trying to work on this. Can we all focus here? That sounds like a cool story. We can talk about it after, but I'm trying to focus on what the game master is saying right now, and I can't think because you're talking about what happened at school or work. They also can help with mediating some personal disputes, especially because sometimes personal disputes between you as the game master and a player, and some of the other scheduling things, making themselves available, making concessions to other players, etc., etc. But those are all, you have to think of your tabletop role-playing group almost like a small subsection at work, like a small project group at work. You're the project manager. You're not necessarily these people's boss, okay? You're same pay grade, same level, but you're in charge of this operation as the game master. You're the one who has the plans. You're responsible for interpreting them. You're responsible for helping keep the trains running on time, so to speak. You have a managerial role, but you're nobody's boss. And with that, you also are the one who's responsible for kind of looking and figuring out what roles and what tasks different players can be most useful in assisting you with outside a game. You might have that one person who has tons of time and can easily help schedule the games and things of that nature, or can help you with that nature. You may have somebody who's just a more meticulous person in general, who's really good at helping record keeping, who can help keep track of inventory and things of that nature and help you manage some other aspects. That's the kind of person who's really great for using their session notes while you're doing scenes and whatnot and trying to keep the game running on time. Their session notes can be invaluable. So, in a nutshell, that's what you are. In-game as a game master, you are the narrator and the referee. Out of game, you are equal parts writer and project manager, and you're the person who is there to kind of facilitate the group having a solid dynamic and to help make sure that everyone, including yourself, has fun. Last thing I'm going to leave here is, what are you not? Okay? A game master is not a babysitter. All right? You're not a babysitter. You are not expected to tell what is presumably adults, or at least nearly adults, how to behave. You are also not a dictator. You don't just kick people out of your group. I see that a lot too. Like, you don't just kick people out of your group. You go to the rest of the group and you say, "Hey, I'm thinking this is a problem. We may need to remove this person from the group. What do you guys think?" And you come to a consensus and kick them out as a group. You don't just kick people off your table. All right? And barring a professional game master, what you are not is an employee of the group. You are not a hired service. Like I said, obviously barring somebody who literally is a hired DM who is hired to help the game or run a game, I do see a lot of problems where a lot of people come into these forums. One of the worst pieces of advice I ever see given to game masters, especially new ones, is this idea that your number one thing is making sure everybody else has fun, and that you're at the bottom of the fun totem pole. Well, you shouldn't do that. It doesn't matter, if your players are having fun, then that's the way it needs to be done. No, if it's not enjoyable to you, the whole group is gone when the game master decides, you know what, I'm burnt out. The biggest problem, and I think the number one cause of game master burnout, and the never a player syndrome, where you got these game masters we always joke about, is like, if you get a chance to play, you better not screw it up for the rest of us. Because we've all been wanting to play for years, and nobody's going to be the DM. Nobody's going to be the game master. I'm always the forever GM. It's a running joke. But it happens a lot, because just like there used to be the player versus game master mentality trope, now you've got basically the game master. These people will beat the game master up for making decisions because one player didn't approve of it. You're there to have fun too, so don't forget that. You are not you're not a slave that is working away thanklessly and paylessly for the pleasure of the people at the table. You are a member of the group just like the rest of them, so don't forget that either. Anyway, what did I miss? How do you describe a game master? And what do you think what game master roles did I miss? Let me know in the comments below. Like and share and subscribe, and I'm really look forward to hearing what some people have to say on this. Talk to you next time.